The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to Inspire FM. This is Friday Night Live. My name is Zaffar Iqbal, and you're listening to, yet again, Friday Night Live, your topical discussion program on matters of headlines in the newspapers, etc., for the week gone, inshallah. So today, the 21st of February, 2020, and I'm joined today also by my co-host, Abu Bakr Cooper. Assalamu alaikum, Abu Bakr.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Right, okay, so lots to talk about today. As you might have heard, the format is changed of this program a little bit, so we've only got an hour. We're still going to cover 4 topics like we used to, but we're going to do it in an hour instead of 2 hours. And hopefully it'll be short and succinct discussions around topical subjects, for to discuss today, inshallah. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the incidents of shootings in Germany and also stabbings in Regent Park Masjid. We will have a representative from a Turkish community in Luton who's going to talk about some, I guess, from a victim's perspective. Some of the victims who were caught up or were actually killed were from Turkish heritage. So we're going to talk to somebody from a masjid in Luton who has connections in Germany. We're going to talk about the Luton Council tax rise. Did you know the the council tax has gone up by 4%? Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw it yesterday, and my heart sort of sank.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I was paying over £250.
Oh my God!
This in the year just gone.
Yes, 4% sneaked in without fanfare, I would say. So that's the council tax rise. We're going to talk to somebody from the council and get their views on that. And we're going to talk about an article which appeared around racial abuse of members of parliament. We're going to try and get hold of Lord Nazir to talk about that and find out how common that is within the Houses of Parliament. You would expect better behaviour, but is there better behaviour in the Parliament? Abu Bakr, better behaviour? You hope so.
Looking back at the last year and how they behave, and it's if you see children like me when I'm looking after children in school, and if you see children the way they speak to one another and insult one another, I mean it's not an adult discussion. It's just petty sensationalism a lot of the time.
Okay,
so
we'll talk about that around about 6:30 onwards, inshallah. And about 6:45, we're going to talk about another topic, which I think it's an essential topic to talk about. I don't know whether you noticed or not, but the weddings are getting more and more flamboyant and more expensive, I would have thought as well. So we're going to try and get what we're trying to get a hold of is somebody who will actually talk about it. The fact that they've actually been hit with a very big budget, a very big sort of expense.
I spoke to an old pupil of mine, and he's saying he can't afford to get married. So I said to him, Abdi, I said, what do you mean you can't get married? And he said, he always calls me unks. He said, unks. He said 30 grand you need these days.
Yeah, minimum, I'd say, minimum.
So
it's not just Asian weddings, right? I was talking to somebody actually from another community, and they're saying exactly the same thing. The wedding is a minimum of 30 grand, probably more.
Yeah, well, this lad's from the Somali community.
Okay, all right, okay. Oh, I will talk about it a bit later.
Yeah.
Right, okay, you're listening to Friday Night Live on Inspire FM 105.1 FM. If you want to take part in our discussions, our number is 01582 481822 if you want to ring in and take part in our discussions. If you want to text or WhatsApp us, it's 07779 481822. Do ring in, inshallah, keep us company. And if you're listening to us in Peterborough and Birmingham and other radio stations up and down the country, welcome. If I haven't mentioned your name, excuse me, it's my ignorance. I haven't got the information in front of me, unfortunately. So I know Peterborough regularly listen to us. So welcome Peterborough and Salam Radio in Peterborough. Also, I guess, welcome to our listeners who listen to us via our website, inspirefm.org, and Facebook and a whole host of other social media gubbins that is used to sort of broadcast out of. Again, I apologise for my ignorance in terms of the technology. I should know better, but I don't. Okay, we're going to go on to move on to our first topic. And now welcome Brother Attila. He's from the Turkish Masjid. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Attila.
Wa alaikum salam.
Jazakallah for joining me today. It's a very sad occasion, I guess, that I'm having a conversation to you about. I heard the news yesterday. It was a bit of a shock to me, but it appears that not everybody, the wider populace, right, was as shocked. But there was a right-wing fascist leaning person who'd taken it upon himself to go and shoot innocent people because they were of a different color and of a different religion to him. What's the news you have? I guess you've got some connections with the Turkish community in Germany. What's the latest information you have on that?
Yes, of course. I mean, as you know, Germany holds the second, I think that the largest Turkish community, or I think it is the largest Turkish community in Europe, with just over 5.5 to 6 million Turkish heritage or Turkish citizens or that live in Germany. Unfortunately, 5 of the that were killed were of Turkish origin or Turkish heritage. Again, we see, I think, the same sort of thing with far-right extremism in Germany, attacks on Muslims, or even in some cases before Turkish citizens. This is not actually new in Germany, as you would see it from here.
Indeed, I think there's been a number of incidents, isn't it? So it looks like a country which had actually tried its best to hide its past fascist history is now, it looks like there are people in the country who are actually looking up to it. Is that the experience that you're having?
It is a really worry, I think, not just in Germany, but all over Europe, that far-right political parties are gaining more power. We see that not as much as here in the UK, but in Europe, in Austria, France, because of their far-right now parties have now said from 2024 that no actually working imams will be able to join or work in France. So that they're cutting that.
The link with the heritage,
Yeah, directing that. And it's just a sad case because we see this now because of, I don't know how the media controls or even uses Islamophobia.
Indeed, yes. So what's the what sort of feeling are you getting from the community there? Are they scared? Are they afraid? Or are they getting used to the fact that they're being targeted and it's become the new norm, I guess?
I mean, like I said, this is not just
Sure.
It's not just a new sort of attack. That the fact that I don't think this person was actually targeting Turkish heritage. I think it was targeting Muslims or people of different origin or ethnic group.
Yeah.
But the communities in Germany, the Turkish communities in Germany have been attacked by far-right extremism because they were Turkish. And just for that, not from a religious or ethnic minority group.
Indeed, and is that creating a like I said, sense of fear in the community?
Worry and concern, yes, of course. The Turkish community there, we have cousins that live around, including Berlin, including where this happened the other night, and they are a bit worried. I mean, they said things have dramatically changed since I think the rise of Islamophobia, the rise of far-right extremism. And they are actually worried, yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Attila. How do you feel? I mean, I don't know whether you noticed this, but I mean, I carefully looked over the media and various news reports, both what happened in Germany and also in London yesterday.
Yes.
None of the news coverages anywhere I saw in this country were talking about either event as an act of terrorism. They're just referring to what happened yesterday as an attempted murder, and they were just talking about what happened in Germany as a right wing thing. I did notice yesterday the Chancellor Merkel, she was describing it as terrorism, but I wasn't hearing that when it was reported here by any of the news media, the British news media. I mean, how does that make you feel? Sorry?
Oh, sorry, they're calling from inside.
Okay.
What we said is because of pressure from the Turkish government that the fact was they said that it was a terrorist sort of action. But I mean, it's media all over again, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think us as communities could ever win. We keep going on and on about it. And the media will protect its interest how it sees.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's time to sort of move on to the next topic of discussion. So, Brother Tila, Jazakallah khair for your contribution and for your thoughts, inshallah, on this topic. Okay. It's a very sad topic, it is. And there was another incident today at the Central Masjid. I don't know whether you got any comments on that at all. The Regent Park Masjid, the stabbing there. There's conflicting information on whether it was actually a chap who'd been frequenting that place, or it was somebody who staked that place out over a period of time, right, and he took his opportunity to stab. I don't know whether you have any more information on that at all. Okay, it's gone, inshallah. Okay, let's.
I think we lost the brother.
I think we lost him, inshallah. Yeah. So let's go back to the shootings and media treatment of that, I guess. So we were talking about it earlier on. I was saying to yourself basically that we are in some ways expecting fairness at somebody or an organisation or institution, right? And I'm talking about the media, which is whose interest isn't to be fair. It's there to basically change public opinion, perceptions, etc., based on their political viewpoint. Why should they care? I mean, we keep asking about that. We talk about media, etc. Why should they care?
Well, it's true. I mean, look at the situation we're in. I mean, our present Prime Minister. I mean, we all know it in the Muslim community, and we remember it while he was writing for a newspaper. He referred to our sisters and mothers, some of them that choose to wear it. The niqabs looking like letterboxes. You know,
so that's the Prime Minister, but I guess.
Yeah, but you. After the Queen, you are talking about the person that is supposedly the moral focus and compass of our country. And when you've got comments like that are just coming from in a jocular way, making fun. See, the first thing you do when you're going to start to finger someone out or is to make fun of them. And once you're making fun of them, then it's very easy.
Dehumanize them.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess it leads on to the next level of violence, I guess, isn't it?
And it's interesting what we've seen this week. At the Brit Awards themselves. I mean, this is the pinnacle of British music at the Brit Awards. The most popular person at the moment at the Brit Awards and in British music, Dave. I'm sure we all saw it. I mean, he was very vocal, literally,
Indeed,
by song, speaking out against this.
Yeah, and I guess it's a big debate, right, which says basically the politicians are a reflection of the thought of the country. Yeah. And I guess there's also an argument to say it's the politicians who steer the country in a particular direction.
I mean,
so I don't know.
The words that Dave used in song really stuck in my mind. The actual phrase he used, a little bit of racist, you're still racist. And I liked the way, because it's almost as if, well, if I'm not, just saying a little bit, that's all right. I mean, that's. Do you see what I'm trying to get at?
Indeed.
I mean, I'm saying it in a jocular way, but that's actually what he's picking up on. Just because you say it in perhaps a jocular or a comedic way, a little bit of racist means you're still racist, mate.
Indeed. Yeah, he probably doesn't see it that way. But anyway, next topic of discussion today is a 4% rise in council tax. The headlines in Luton today: high risk budget with 4% council tax rise approved by Luton Council in a bid to offset years of austerity. We have. We tried to get hold of somebody from the ruling, I guess, party within Luton.
Oh, let me guess, you couldn't get anybody.
You couldn't get anybody. But we got somebody from the opposition, though. I guess we got David Franks. Hi, David. Welcome to Friday Night Live on Inspire FM.
Good evening, David.
Hello.
Right. Okay. So we're going to talk about the 4% rise in council tax first. But before we do, we were just talking about this very topical item where we said. The politicians reflect society, and the other argument is actually the politicians who actually steer the country in a particular direction. What's your view on that? Is it the populace who steer the politicians, or vice versa?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I heard a little bit of the tail end of your conversation while I was waiting for you to come to me. You were talking about somebody being a little bit racist. There's no such thing as a little bit racist.
Indeed, I think he was talking about Mr. Johnson.
It's like saying you're slightly pregnant. It doesn't happen, does it? You either are or you're not.
Well, yeah.
I really do honestly think.
See, that's the argument that Dave. I mean, he's the most popular musician. He won awards, and he actually played at the Brit Awards the other night.
I understand.
And that is what he was saying. I mean, he was a fantastic pianist, and while he was doing this fantastic piece on the piano, and then he was doing the rap, and then another pianist took over, and that's what he was saying. A little bit of racist means you're still racist. That's what he was saying in his rap, and it really stuck in my mind. Just because you can speak comedically, or you can write in a jocular or comedic way, that's no excuse for what was said, is it? I mean,
no, it's not. The other thing we have to bear in mind is that people who are high profile and therefore likely to get a lot of media coverage, and that means yes, politicians, footballers, pop stars, and whatever, they really need to be very careful what they say, because we've heard one or two politicians recently saying things that are likely to stir up racial problems or religious problems. You've got to be careful what you say and think about it.
There's responsibility with the freedom that you have in terms of expressing yourself. Anyway, let's talk about the budget. We've got a 4% rise. 4%. What's your thoughts on that? Is that fair? Fair rise? 4%?
Well, no rise that's more than twice the rate of inflation is fair. But that's not the reason we actually voted against the budget. We voted against the budget because it is a supremely high risk budget. And that they really are sticking their necks out on this.
So, I mean, you're from I guess, the Lib Dems party, right, in Luton Council. You voted against it on the basis of high risk. I mean, what's high risk about it? It's 4%.
Well, there's a number of things that are high risk about it. First of all, the amount of borrowing.
Yes.
Borrowing.
They're pushing the council's borrowing over the next 12 months up to almost £600 million, which is a huge amount of money for a relatively small authority like Luton. They're promising some savings in the budget, which they promised last year. They didn't happen last year, so why do we think they're going to happen this year?
So where is this going to be?
They admit there's a 16 to 20 million pounds gap over the next 2 years in the budget. That's high risk.
Where are they borrowing this from, David?
Well, most of it will come from the Public Works Loans Board. It's a government outfit that loans money to local authorities for capital projects.
Right. Okay. All right. So before we go on to that, so there's two aspects of this, right? So there is a budget that was presented. Budget is increased the expenditure, and part of the clawback is a 4% rise in the council tax, but also some money that's going to be borrowed, £600 million, etc. The other question, really, I guess, from the ordinary sort of resident like myself will ask is, are we getting value for money? I mean, I've not known 1 year when the council hasn't raised above inflation rates, council taxes. And the thing is, you'd expect improvement in some services. And frankly, that's not very evident, to be honest.
No, I understand that. I mean, and one of the other reasons we voted against it was there is a council tax reduction system which essentially helps people who genuinely can't afford to pay the whole of their council tax. It helps them out. They're changing that, bearing in mind that these are all people who are not well off. These are all people who need help.
Yeah.
And they're changing the system so that 2,200 families will end up paying £900 more than they did this year.
Well,
now, I mean, it's not
how did you come to that figure then?
People.
How did you come out to that figure then? £900 for a number of families. How is that calculated?
Well, it's actually spelled out in the budget report. It's on the printed papers.
Oh, okay, all right.
Is that because
the numbers? I'm not making the numbers up.
So why is that?
Those numbers.
Is that because they're changing thresholds
to
or
hit
something?
people who can't afford to pay now?
Indeed. Okay.
Is that because they're changing thresholds or because they're just removing the help?
They're changing thresholds and generally rejigging it around. So the net effect, as far as the council's concerned, is it saves them £1.2 million.
Okay, right.
That's great. What about these poor people who are struggling to pay their council tax now?
Indeed. And in terms of how the revenue, for the council, so 4% I guess is an increase on the actual residents here, but is there any other source of income, right, which perhaps the council could rely on to maybe cushion some of this below? Because it's not, I mean, it's quite high, I guess, compared to other councils, isn't it? So.
Well, they get about £40 million a year from the airport, of course.
Right, and is that the only source of income in Luton? I mean, what about rates?
Business rates.
Indeed.
Again, that's an interesting thing, actually. Thank you for mentioning it. Business rates. Mm-hmm. They are relying in this budget on increased income from business rates. Mm. Well, don't they know that retailers are struggling and they're appealing against the valuation, which is likely to reduce the business rates that they pay? That a lot of the business organisations are lobbying the Tory government for a reduction in business rates. Mm. I can't see that there's not a hope in hell that they're going to get more money from business rates. They're going to end up getting less.
Mm. Okay, what would the Lib Dems do if you're in that situation? What would be your ideal budget then?
Well, we've argued for years that the income from the airport, which is very substantial sums of money, we should gradually spend less and less and less each year of that on ordinary revenue, day-to-day business running the council, and more of it on capital projects. If we were doing that, then the council wouldn't need to borrow such huge sums of money. And bearing in mind, when the council is borrowing money, it's the council taxpayers who have to not only pay it back, but pay interest on it.
Okay. One final thing, Dave. It's apparently the full council meeting was held in venue 360. Is the council not big enough anymore for the councillors, is it? Or do they fancy kind of like an evening out?
No, it's the council chamber is out of action.
Oh, okay. Right.
They're embarking on a major refurbishment of the whole building,
right.
And the council chamber is phase one.
Right.
So
okay.
Can't use it at the moment.
All right. So some
But
of these
hopefully that'll be back in use
so
in a
some of
month
this
or so.
4% would probably go to actually fix their place of residence, I guess.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right. Okay. All right, Dave. Thanks very much for joining us today. I think we've got a little bit more out of that discussion, I think, than we perhaps intended in terms of the wider comment on racism, etc. Thanks, Dave, for
Good to
that.
talk to you.
Perhaps,
Thank you. Have a
we'll talk
lovely
again
weekend,
soon.
Dave.
Thank you. Have a lovely weekend indeed. Yes. Right. Okay. We're going to listeners are going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about another topical subject, which is racism in the Houses of Commons. We'll talk about politicians. We're going to carry on talking about politicians a bit later on, inshallah. Nice. What's we've got about 20 seconds or so, but quickly, what's the key headline? I mean, this story that we're going to discuss is around a number of some survey of some of the MPs, and they've come back and they've actually said that they've had lots of, I guess, racist comments hurled at them.
It was a very large percentage. I forget what it was now.
I'll get that. All right, listeners, we'll be back after these short messages, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz. Listen to Inspire FM shows in your time by heading over to inspirefm.org or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. You're listening to Inspire FM. This is Friday Night Live. My name is Zaffar Iqbal, and with me is Abu Bakr Cooper as a co-host of this program today. We're running a shortened version of Friday Night Live this week as a trial, I guess, for a period of time. It's only 1 hour. We're trying to pack in more short stories rather than sort of more in-depth analysis, half an hour sort of sessions, etc. that we used to have, inshallah. Hopefully you'll like it. If you want to join our conversation, inshallah, the numbers are the same, 01582481822, 07779481822 if you want to text and WhatsApp us. And before the break, we were talking about the 4% council tax rise in Luton. So that worked out to be about 80, for most people, 88p per week. I'm told it's 88p per week, according to the council, etc. So I'm not sure how that translates for most of you guys, but it's been rising every year since I've been in Luton. So I've been in Luton for many years. Now, next story is racism in the Houses of Commons. So this is basically a story that appeared in ITV. ITV did a survey, and the survey says more than half of Black and Asian ethnic minority BME MPs experience racism. Right, that's what the headline says. 37 of the 65 BME MPs, 62% of them, have said that they'd experienced racism in the Houses of Parliament, while 51% of them said they'd dealt with racism from fellow MPs. Right, okay. And there are some quotes there, and there are some alarming quotes where...
Did you say 51%?
51% that they actually dealt with racism from fellow MPs.
Good God.
And 62%...
From fellow MPs? Fellow
MPs, that's right. And 62% said they had experienced racism from staff in the Houses of Parliament. So what one example quoted is that one Afro-Caribbean MP was escorted out of a meeting room, and this is Dawn Butler, Labour MP for Brent Central, told ITV that officers came in to actually physically escort her out of the members' tea room, even though she told them that he was an MP. How shocking is that? Right? And other remarks include mistaking an MP for a cleaner and asking him to use a different sort of lift than perhaps they would normally use. So you'd expect, I guess, better sense of behaviour. There's a quote from Naz Shah. She's an MP, a Labour MP in the Parliament, and I think she suggests that Labour MP Naz Shah has said that there's been no equality for BME MPs in the Houses of Parliament. These are the people who actually enacted equality legislation, and what's been accused is that there is no equality in the Houses of Parliament. We have Lord Nazir Saab on the phone, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Lord Nazir Saab. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you very much. I'm good. I hope you're well too.
Alhamdulillah, and thank you very much for speaking to us today. It's been a while.
Yes, it's pleasure.
Indeed. Okay. So what's your experience been, and have you experienced racism in the House of Lords or House of Parliament?
To be honest, I don't. The examples you gave, these are type of examples that I've gone through. I don't call them racism. I just put it down as ignorance sometimes.
No, come on. Now that's just.
Let me give you an example. Well, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
When I used to, in the early days, when I used to come in, quite often security people would stop me and say, are you a pass holder? And these days everybody has to show their pass anyway. But there was one occasion when I had some guests with me, and there was a secret police officer without uniform who was looking out myself with 3 or 4 of my guests who came running across. He thought that he's caught some illegal immigrants inside Parliament. And he came to me and he sort of like very close to my face. He said, are you a pass holder? And I looked on his chest. He didn't have a pass. I got my pass and I put it right across his face and I said, yes, I am. And are you? Can you please show me yours? So that embarrassed him. But no, occasionally you get people that ask you.
Lawrence, some would argue that because you've been in that environment, you've got thick skin. You're now saying, oh, it's a bit of banter, oh, it's a bit of joking, oh, it's just ignorance, etc. But deep down, it's expressing. I guess racism in a form of ignorance, isn't it?
No, I don't. I honestly don't think people say things. I mean, you know, once they know who you are and you're there by right, then people do give you respect. Like equal member. I suppose there are, even in British society, though. Let's be honest, there are people who are more equal than others. Let's be honest, wherever we go, people, if there's a white person and a black person and a Muslim person with a beard, the sequence of events that will happen.
No, that's accepting racism, isn't it? That's accepting stereotyping of people.
I want to do. Listen, this is why I said to your producer when they called me, I said, it's better that you talk to one of those MPs who've experienced and who feel vulnerable, because I've become thick-skinned because I've been there 21 years. Yes, there have been occasions. I can tell you, I'll give you an example. That was something very offensive. That I had some guests in the peers' entrance, and there was one security officer who asked my guests to stand on one side, then search them, and the way he behaved was very different from how he behaved he was a new police officer, admittedly, and he was white, then the way he behaved with a lot of other white visitors. I reported him to Black Rod. I went and, I also told him off in front of everybody else. I showed him my pass, and I said that you had no right to speak to my guests like this, and to tell them to go through this security. When I'm there, I can receive them anyway. So, it does happen, but I think sometimes
ignorance,
people...
you say.
Yeah.
So what about I think Shahid, the MP for Manchester, he was apparently told to go to Pakistan. If he didn't like it here, he could go to Pakistan. Is that not racism?
Well, that's awful. If they did that, I mean, he should have gone and reported to the authorities. In fact, to be honest, on occasions when I've reported, the senior officers of Black Rod have taken these matters very seriously.
Right.
And they've, subpoenaed or called those people in front of them and sort of like questioned them. And I've always sort of, once I made a complaint, I made the point, I've said that they need training, and then you can bring them back, but not before training. And maybe sometimes they've apologized and gone for training and then came back reformed people. But,
what about fellow MPs? I mean, the statistics are quite damning. 51% of the MPs have said their fellow MPs have been racist towards them, or they've behaved.
Well, there's a proper a remedy that you can go to the authorities and make a formal complaint.
So what's the outcome, though? What's the likely sanction you'll
well,
get?
Standards Commissioner would recommend penalties through the House committees. I mean, there are penalties and there are proper way of reporting people. Nobody should remain silent. I mean, when I've had on various occasions, when I've had a bit of this experience, I challenge people, and alhamdulillah, everything is okay then.
You stand up to them and then put them in their place, right?
Well, I've always done. Look, I'm an old man now, and I enjoy what I do, and I really don't want people to think that we are just weak and they can just walk all over. I mean, I have equal right to be there and right to be able to represent my views.
Sure. So the thing is, in Parliament, although outside of Parliament you could be arrested and you could be tried, I guess, but expressing racist views within the Houses of Parliament, there's no sanction. There's no kind of like criminal sanction against that, is it?
Well, there is. It's not a criminal sanction.
But you get a slap on the wrist, basically, right, for being a bit naughty.
But even outside, it's very difficult. Listen, how many people do you know who've gone round and called you Black Bee, and then they've been arrested and been brought before magistrates? It doesn't really happen. Look, you really have to have evidence, and you really have to go for prosecution and everything else. In our society, everywhere, there is racism and there is Islamophobia, and we live it. We shouldn't have to, but sadly, that is a reality.
Sounds like you kind of given in to sounds like you're not a battler anymore.
No, but what I don't want is for us to be stuck in this mind that, look, this society is racist, I'm going to move to UAE, or I'm going to get a job in Pakistan and I can't live here. And look, we have to, I've lived here now 50 years, and in these 50 years, from the times when these skinheads and big boots, right-wing fascists who used to throw bricks through our window, to people who would shout occasionally. And I tell you, even as a member of the House of Lords, I shouldn't. But when somebody shouted abuse, I've put the brake on, stopped my car and walked over to them and
told them off?
given them my peace of mind.
Oh, okay, excellent. Okay, so perhaps that's the attitude to have. But then again, I guess there are MPs there, and I think there's quite a few good examples who have actually got affiliations with the far right, or have invited the far right from Holland and places like that to come to the Houses of Parliament. And again, I guess
look, we have members of the House of Lords. There's one particular Lord Pearson.
Yes, indeed, that's what I'm talking about.
He's never been rude. He's never used bad language. We exchange our views in kind of sarcastic way, but we never sort of like use offensive language.
Right.
He would say things, and I would say equally things back to him. But he's more than anything, I think when I see him one-to-one, he's very polite. In the chamber, he does use terrible language.
Inflammatory language, okay.
Terrible language in the chamber.
Indeed. All right. Okay.
Well, not abusive language. He will misquote from the Quran, and he will use terrible quotes from the so-called extremists, Anjem Chowdhury and people like that, and said this is the mainstream Islam and things like that.
So
that I find very offensive.
You mean demonstrate ignorance in the chamber, yes?
Yes, he has done
Indeed. That. Okay, all right. Lord Nazir Saad, thank you very much for your comments today, inshallah. I guess you've thrown a different light to what I perhaps expected, right, from somebody who's got experience.
Yeah, well, be positive, don't be scared. Just generally speaking, let me just say these two words. generally speaking, British society is a fantastic society.
Indeed, yes.
And we should have zero tolerance to any of these, prejudiced people. But, we're human beings. It's worse in the United States. It's terrible in India. It is bad in Germany and in other parts of the world. So we have to be realistic as human beings. We have to challenge these bigots all the time.
Indeed. Okay. Jazakallah khair, Lord Aziz, for your comments.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. ABC. Any comments on that? Any thoughts on that? What's your views? Is it normalizing or accepting racism? What do you think?
Well, quite simply, if we just go back to the figures which you pulled out, 51% of black and minority ethnic MPs say that they've perceived racism from other MPs.
Indeed,
so more than half of black and minority ethnic MPs have said that they've experienced racism from MPs.
Indeed,
from other MPs. That is shocking. And the reason why we need to remember why this is shocking, remember, these are the people that legislate.
Yes.
These are the people that pass laws.
Yep, absolutely. This is the point of having the discussion today.
So this is what this is why we really need to understand why this is so significant.
Indeed, and
because those 600 odd people in Parliament, those are the ones that are going to decide the laws that are going to judge you and me, our mums, our dads, our children, aunties and uncles, that are going to judge them.
Indeed, yes, indeed. Yeah.
In a court of law. So they are the people deciding the laws.
Indeed.
So these are the word MP, we often forget the significance of that role, but it's a very weighty role.
Indeed.
And I bring you back again, and we really should remember what we've seen in the media, top music stars this week on Britain's greatest
highlighting racism.
Yeah, in Britain's greatest prize-giving platform for the music industry, actually giving a rap.
Indeed. Okay, so we're gonna have to move on to the next topic. Next topic of discussion today is the weddings are getting more and more expensive, and I think it's pretty evident if you see some of the celebrations that take place around the town. But this is an article from the Metro. It's written by what seems like a Muslim lady, and I think she's writing the fact that the weddings are becoming more and more expensive, and a figure was quoted early on, something like £30,000, etc., for kind of like a normal wedding these days, and there was more and more evidence that people are finding it hard to actually get married, and financially, by getting married, they're actually starting on the wrong footing. They're actually in debt before they even actually sort of get into a proper relationship. So we got Qari Ismail is the General Secretary of the Jamia Ulama of Britain. Ulama of Britain. Qari Ismail Sahib, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, Qari Sahib. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Apologies, I had you on mute on my side. So is it in your experience, is it a big issue? Are weddings and marriages getting more and more expensive?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Yes, it is actually a big problem within Muslim community as well as other minority communities as well, that the nature of why this problem or rise is we see in these communities, for the reason that there is a competition and people are trying to compete with each other within our communities. And it's very sad that, as you mentioned, that people are, borrowing lots of money, and then basically it's, first extravagance,
Mm-hmm.
and then, borrowing on interest, and then so many other things. And all these things are immoral, wrong things are happening just to show off that, I have more money, I can afford more jewelry, I can, show off, and have, the wedding of my son or daughter somewhere in a very big place.
Okay.
All these things are against the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah, we'll get to the sunnah inshallah in a minute. I just want to quote some figures here. So this is one of the people that was interviewed. Apparently he spent £55,000 on the wedding. Actually, 55,000 between both parties, the male and the female, and he had to borrow money from his from the bank. He had to borrow money from the bank and family to actually have the wedding. £55,000. Another person basically describes the fact that they actually got into some serious debt right after getting married, etc. So some tragic stories.
But that's ridiculous. That's a quarter of a house.
Yeah, it is.
You'd be better off just having a simple party at home, according to the sunnah, and giving the money to the children and help them set up their home. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Indeed. Then they're taking loans out from banks. Yeah, and there's another person who actually borrowed some money again, loans right from the family and friends to actually get married. So what's actually?
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, sure.
Can I tell you something? I come across so many Muslim brothers and sisters here. In fact, in our region here as well, particularly new Muslim brothers and sisters, and some of the communities who are not very have very large kind of extended families, and their weddings are very simple. 5, 6 people. The most I've seen that only 10 people.
Well, that's the other side of it, isn't it? So tell us what the sunnah is.
I think £200 they do the whole wedding. Just very simple, straightforward. No extravagance, no waste, and no pride or anything like that.
Indeed. So what's actually, from a religious perspective, I guess it's actually a. Am I right in saying it's actually a sin to be extravagant, or is it not advised that you be extravagant?
Well, extravagance, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ, that those they are extravagant, they are the brothers of shaitan.
Indeed.
And the other thing is that on top of that, if you don't have in your pocket, you borrow on interest. This is another sin.
Indeed.
And then after that, it causes problems that the barakah and blessing which comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jalla, it goes away, because of the initial foundation of being something is in haram.
Yes, it's done for the wrong intention. It's done for show rather than. So tell us. I mean, there is some legitimate expense, I guess, isn't it? So there's the actual mahar, right? That the man has to give the family. Is that the main expense, do you think, or is it more of a show that's more of the expense? What's in your experience?
Well, I mean, the mahar should be very simple, straight, and if we even go to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that mahar goes roughly to somewhere around between £500 to £600 at this very moment of the present value. But even if that is not affordable by somebody, or it's too much for someone, can reduce it, whatever is agreed between. We learn that from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But where we see the competition, that to like have more kind of furniture, more expensive halls,
cars, I think, is in
the wedding halls, booking the wedding halls, or the kind of food being offered to guests, and this sort of the entertainment, all these things. This is showing up, and some people hiring these limousines for £2,000 per day and things like that. It's very bad. It's so.
But what's
so
actually what would you advise is the is the wedding which is according to the Sunnah? What's your ideal kind of like?
I would
description?
say that the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that to have very simple wedding, and if there are necessities, basic necessities which all of us, have. For example, like somebody, needs beddings and things like that. That can be given to them as a gift by their relatives, and then have a simple walima, which is obviously, the food on the wedding, and can be joined together, and doesn't need to be very big, party or something. You can do it at home. You can do it somewhere in a very simple hall, and not actually spending a lot of money on just because of extravagance or
Indeed,
or
and I
that.
guess
In
the other.
fact, that will bring more barakah, simplicity, and and you see the dresses, the wedding dresses which people buy, it costs thousands of pounds, and then they don't wear it afterwards.
Indeed, and they have to find
And
somewhere to store them.
I know there is a shop which this brother collects for charity. In charity,
That's right. Yeah.
wedding dresses, and he gets them, and he was telling me that some of them are actually were made on order in India and Pakistan,
That's
which
right, yeah.
costed thousands of pounds,
That's right.
with
Yeah.
lots of handcraft and so much.
And
And
I think
he
the
collects
other.
them, so he gives them to orphanages and other places.
Indeed. I guess the other tragedy is that the divorces are becoming common as well. So you're spending thousands and
Of course.
thousands of pounds, and then you're finding that within months, I think the marriage is broken down, and I think it's all money down the pot, really, isn't
But
it?
I'm saying, why you are buying something which you're not going to use?
Indeed.
Why you're spending so much money on something which is not going, just because to show off to people, on that day.
Indeed. All right.
And
It
thank
is a
you for
tragedy.
sharing with us how we should do it properly.
Indeed, inshallah. Qari Ismail Sahib, we've only got about 17 seconds or so for the end of the program. Jazakallah khair for your
thank
contribution
you.
today. inshallah.
Barakallahu feekum. Okay,
Jazakallah
salam.
Listeners,
khair,
that's the end of the show, unfortunately. So we're going to have to say goodbye to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
Have a lovely
wa barakatuh.
weekend,
Have a
everyone.
lovely weekend.
Assalamu
We'll
alaikum wa
speak to you next
rahmatullah.
week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We stream our daily broadcast on inspirefm.org. You'll find all our daily updates on our social media at Inspire FM Luton.